Morning, everybody. Today, going through the live that is about sustaining business in Nigeria and talking about what does it take to sustain business in Nigeria. I think is an important thing to do because a lot of us, we're all seeing and we're all learning that for the most part, surviving in Nigeria, the way to go about it is starting your own business. So I've gotten that question a number of times, and I decided to use this opportunity to talk about it as I see it. We're using Kick and Co as case study, and I'm going to share what my experience has been, as well as what I know has been a structure as I see it that we've used, and I also share the results. So I wrote some things down. And it comes out right. Let me see. Like this. This is the structure. This is what I'm talking about. And I'm going to read through it. I don't know which way I click it. I'm just going to talk about it for a bit. And then I'll share something extra as well. So, thinking about work and thinking about starting one's own business, especially when you're considering that you're in Nigeria, you're thinking about how the whole process works in terms of how you've been through the motions of thinking through there's limitations and all these things, which there are, but like you want to focus on um delivering nonetheless, surviving nonetheless. I reckon that this structure will actually be applicable anywhere, and is the structure that I've used here in Nigeria. We're still growing, and I always say that we're still growing and we're still learning. But then there's no harm in sharing what one knows thus far, what one has seen thus far. There's no harm in, I guess, answering the question that people have asked. So, I mean, there's several things to consider, first of all, in a business. And then when you consider that the times we live in, we're not just dealing with that you have to start a business and survive. We're now dealing with you have to start a business and survive in a time where there's hyper competition, there's emergence of new technology that is disrupting what anybody knows, in at least to the extent which we've lived our lifetime. These technologies are really, really disrupting. And it's like, if you're thinking about business now, you have to be thinking about what's the best way to position. Like right now, you wouldn't be looking for a fax machine to do your business. You're looking for a website, perhaps. Right now, you won't be looking for older technology, wired telephone, all these things, unless what is a brand that's vintage based. So most businesses now, most people, most young people, most entrepreneurially minded individuals that are thinking of starting businesses and creating enterprise that will favor others ought to be thinking about it in the sense of longevity and what happens in the next 5 years. Where is the world going in the next 10 years? How does demand evolve and shape out? So the way I see it, there's 5 things you need to be concerned about: enterprise architecture, your magnet system, informed outreach, agency system, and then how to automate your systems. Take that again. Your enterprise architecture, especially when you're starting from scratch, you're thinking about what the architecture is. Most people in our time like to think about it in terms of we just want to vibe. Most of us just want to vibe. But then the thing that I'm learning is you're actually supposed to be vibing because that's how you enjoy the entire thing. You are supposed to be vibing, but then you shouldn't be vibing on vibes, be vibing on structure. That's the way I see it. And um, it's good in our generation that we all understand to a large extent ourselves. Like we've been given that liberty, that leeway to explore our personal identity to a large extent, more so than how our parents or previous generations were able to, I would say. Like we have more information, we have more tech. And I think that's a good thing. I know that that's a good thing because going into the future, originality, I perceive that as the secret sauce that will differentiate brands and businesses. It has always been, it will just become more evident. And when you want to vibe, like you want to do something you love for a living, that vibe has to be done on a structure that is repeatable, scalable, enjoyable, so you don't burn out. And that's why I call your enterprise architecture. And that consists of your brand itself and then your digital real estate. So it's interesting, back in the days when people wanted to put their brand out there, they would look for print real estate. So putting their things advertised. I remember reading these old magazines when I was little, where it was cars, a lot of cars in the magazine, and that's how people really browsed through up to see options. It was through magazines, print, you know, billboards, all of these things. And then we got into the time where on the internet now it's you putting your stuff on the internet via websites and such. And then the more prolific one is putting like partnering with big corporations, quote unquote, in the sense where they need human generated content like YouTube, TikTok, wherever the case may be. And that's where most people's attention are already. So you have to start thinking about what your digital real estate is in sense of partnering with these demigods that are the platforms that we all rely on, wherever the case may be. You pick your own based on the what your aim and intent is. You pick and then you start creating. You start putting yourself out there. It's more accessible now for us as opposed to back then, where the gatekeepers, if you don't want to print your own stuff or they charge too much where you cannot afford, those things, those tiers of premium still exist today, but then it's easier to think of it as, rah, just buy a camera and think of how you want to represent yourself online, and that becomes your digital real estate. So instead of just thinking about it as branding yourself, I see it as I see it as like in the future, as we're going into the world of just artificial content, people are going to seek out originality more. People are going to seek out original, relatable more. So if you think of yourself like that and you know that people are going to seek out originality, it's best to start building a life that you can sustain. And for me, I see the best sustenance as a life that is authentic to you. And so if you investigate yourself like that and you know how you want to represent yourself online, you and it's something you can sustain and you can enjoy, then that becomes the essence of what your brand is and what your digital real estate is going to represent, you know. And then after investigating that, the next you're thinking about is your magnet system. And I've spoken about this before, but your magnet system is your most attractive leverage. Let's call it that. Your most attractive thing. Like, why would people want to work with you? Why you? Because there's many people that can do what you do. So why you? So representing your magnet system. That magnet system for Kick and Cool, for example, our magnet system is KTN. So we use KTN as the platform to preach, to send our message out there. That's what I'm using, preach, for presence, and then for community. So that's the three intents of whatever your magnet system is to preach and tell people what you do. Let your likeness be out there, distribute your essence, if you will. And then to have a presence online that people can relate with, um, refer back to. Okay, and then the community, people that will be they can learn from you, You can get feedback from them for the things that you're doing. You can get feedback from them. Um, some of them may eventually become like they may eventually come work with you. Some of them may eventually buy from you. So whatever it is that you're selling. But community is important going into the future. Community is very important. So thinking about your magnet system, it ought to be a strategy that gives you a platform, a microphone to preach, something that gives you presence, and then something that gives you community. For KTN, I developed KTN in the sense, in that sense as well, because I knew that, especially operating business from Africa, one needs a microphone. To a great extent, one needs a microphone. And KTN tends to be that, where even within the microphone, I can cook up shows, like the podcast, like the live, like this. So it just gives me different mediums to engage with people. This one now is one of our community resources. So if people ask questions, I can easily, freely come and answer those questions and interact with people in real time. The community appreciates that. And then the podcast is also a way where we can welcome people in and have conversations with them, good enough to exchange ideas, amongst other things. And then Afropreneurship is, I call it my way of touching grass. Because I don't want to always be in the studio. I want to have the freedom to roam as well. And, go create demised content. And, having this platform you can get people in and help tell their stories, even partner with them, collaborate with them to create unique ideas or new talents that you meet that perhaps a podcast may not be their thing. You can work with other creatives to make new things, tell stories. That's why I see Afropreneurship as for KTN. And then the third thing, we've spoken about enterprise architecture that you ought to be thinking about. We just finished speaking about what your magnet system ought to be. For back in the day, it used to be just the founders, or it's still just the founders that would like engage that magnet system, be the ones preaching, be the ones out there reaching out to people. So, every business these days needs that. Every business these days needs that. Third thing is informed outreach. So, as you're putting out your essence out there, as you're putting out your content out there, you're going to be getting a lot of data. That's why it's important to have platforms that you're collaborating with, such as YouTube, because through all your effort of putting content out, you're getting data and feedback back. So when it gets to the point of outreach, to a large extent, you have information. You know who has been engaging, who has not been. You can then hypothesize to why are these people engaging, what am I doing that's pulling them in? Or perhaps because they're engaging, perhaps these are the things they're looking for. And you create an avatar in your head and you keep creating content for them, for that avatar. And then you find that your audience that is similar, that is intended, it keeps growing like that because you're speaking to somebody in mind. You only get that picture massaged and formed when you are receiving data back from the effort you're putting out. So it's important to look at the analytics. So that's analytics, and all the tools inform the kind of outreach you will now be doing. If you're not getting your type of intended engagement or audience and whatnot, you start thinking along the lines of, well, what do I need to pivot to? What do I need to change in order to start getting the kind of audience that I want? And then you use tools for that. There's a lot of tools for that. And the fourth thing is your agency system. So I like to say that teams will always outperform individuals. Teams will always outperform individuals. So always think about it like it cannot be a one-man squad. You need a team of divided capabilities and utilities. So I call that the agency system. For clients, when we're doing this for clients, the agency system is what we deliver to them for quality service delivery, bankable service delivery. So when we've done the work of strategizing for their magnet system, and we've done the work of defining what their enterprise architecture is, we then go about operationalizing it. So that would include hiring and managing teams, getting the right tools, and getting the right automations, and then, you know, taking care of all them three. So for an individual who wants to start a business, you have to think about your agency system as in the quality that you want to keep putting out and getting better at putting out. That quality, how can you operationalize it, systemize it, automate it to make sure that the quality that you're delivering always edges towards the positive, as in you're getting better, and then you're being consistent with it also so that you don't burn out. And then the fifth thing is, after you get your agency system, it typically forms out to be a blueprint of, I'll do this on Thursday. It forms a schedule. It forms a node of control, as in personnel. It forms where you can use tools as opposed to personnel. And then you basically get out a system that you can bank on, a system that is clear and easily repeatable and scalable. And then you can then go about automating that system, because then you know, we can make this more efficient by pulling this and this together into here, and then here makes it more efficient, so we eradicate too much steps. It just becomes clearer. Outreach, follow up, all of these things, it becomes clearer when you've put out your agency system, and then you can now incorporate AI tools into it, or any other kind of tool, or the right personnel. It'll become clearer. So that's how I think about breaking down a business into repeatable, automatable little parts. And then thinking of how best to become efficient. I'll take that again. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you have to think about to sustain business in Nigeria: your enterprise architecture, your magnet system, informed outreach, agency system, and then how to automate your systems. 5 things. The enterprise architecture forms your home. Like is the point where people come. When they come, they see you. When they come, that's what you represent. That's what you're about. That's what you can give them. Work, like, represent that as best you can, as creatively as you can. That's your home. That's that digital real estate. It's your home. And then you start thinking about what your magnet system is. Your magnet system is essentially your marketing tool. But like, it's marketing in a way that's sustainable. Like you're not creating a persona that you cannot keep up with. You're not creating a brand style, brand tone that is going to then box you in, you know. So everybody's allowed to evolve into themselves. And it's always good to evolve into yourself when you've given some thought to who you are, who you want to be, who you want to become. And then you have a clear roadmap to attempt becoming that. So when you're marketing your services, marketing the products, you'll be doing it in a way that marketing is storytelling. So when you're marketing yourself, your business, your features, your product, you're essentially storytelling. And when you're doing it in a way you enjoy, you're going to enjoy putting yourself out there. you just enjoy putting yourself out there because that's how you're doing it in a way that you enjoy. You're doing it in a way that you can repeat and you can scale, and that's not burning you out. That's the way I see that. So for me, I like the Afropreneurship series podcast, the live. We'll see. Podcast, I enjoy talking with people, having those conversations. Very interesting for me. I learn a lot. I immerse myself in every single conversation to really exchange thoughts, exchange ideas, and match them up in that moment to learn from people, to see the world as they see the world, to introduce how I see the world in that conversation and get feedback in real time. Entrepreneurship will tell stories. The live, it's like this, we engage. It's all the same thing. I'm coming out like myself in a show like podcast, in series like the Entrepreneurship, or like this. This as a community resource. And the third thing is informed research. So as I'm doing all of this, I'm getting the feedback, and it's facilitating me to know what next to do, who best to reach out to, for what intent, for what purpose. And then I have my teams that facilitate me in the running of the backend, the video editor, all of these people. And then as automations continue to come, we'll continue to automate our systems. I have this thing to share that all businesses need one of three, or perhaps if you have the three, that's one. But you need one of three things to survive for leverage: code, capital, or media. My throat is. I haven't taken tea this morning. 1 second. Let me get something to drink. My throat is really dry. Code, capital, media. I want to really speak on that. All right. Move all this up. So looking at this, the 5 things to consider to sustain business in Nigeria: your enterprise architecture, your magnet system, your informed outreach, so using analytics and data, your agency system for consistent quality delivery, and then how best to automate your systems using AI, your teams, and your tools, right? Basically, that'll give you flow. Just this picture, that's what the message is about. And like I was saying, all businesses need one of 3 tools, I would say, for leverage: capital, code, media. You're solving to get one of these for leverage. I'll integrate that. For leverage. All right. And then these 3 things, They are always solving for one thing. They're solving for ROI. Okay? They're solving for ROI. And ROI in the case of capital stands for return on investment. Return on investment. ROI for code stands for repetition of intent. Now, repetition of intent is like it's essentially automation, is representing your systems algorithmically and having, perhaps in the case of the most popular one now, having AI agents come together to do a couple of predefined tasks, coding individual nodes to make it happen. But prior to AI, it would have just been algorithms, code, writing it in Python, in whatever the case may be, putting your intent in algorithm form so it repeats itself. So that's what repetition of intent is as regards code. And then for media, you're solving for radio on internet. You're solving for radio on internet. So sustaining business anywhere, whether in Nigeria, in Africa or not, these three things are the things that will give you leverage. If you have money, you go far. You tend to have speed in the market. If you have the ability to write code, as in maybe you can hire people who can write code, or you yourself can write code, and more people now are able to write code because of AI and large language models. So if you have capital, yes, you can deploy. It's even easier to make money these days if you have capital. Like, you just, with less work, you put in capital, you invest the capital somewhere, you get return on investment. Code, you can, when after you get your agency system for your business, how do you want it to function? What are the nodes in between here and there? You can then put that into algorithm, and then yeah, that repeats your intent. So that would include people, that would include teams, that would include tools. Then media, you're looking for radio on the internet, always on. You know that when you go on your radio, when you put on channel on your radio, there isn't any time that you put on your radio where it's not on. Then there's nothing on their programming. So when you're thinking about media, many businesses in Africa don't have capital. Code barrier is reducing because now we have AI and large language models. The best that most businesses can do is media. And that's why media takes the cake, at least for now in Africa. And then when you now find that you start putting your media, like you start growing your digital real estate, leveraging media for your business, capital comes as a result. Me personally, I would prefer to start from capital and maybe later enter media. But with the cards I was dealt, it was best to start pushing with media and then convert to capital, which will then still boost the media and is a self-serving cycle. And then now with the emergence and the prevalence of code that's getting more accessible, that system of making sure that there's always programming on the media aspect can get automated, can get systemized, and can get, the intent repeated. So yeah, sustaining business in Nigeria. 3 points of leverage: capital, code, or media. Any which one you have, any mixture of the three you have, you're solving for ROI. Radio on the internet, in terms of your own, you're structuring for media leverage. Repetition of intent, you're structuring for code leverage if you have that. And return on investment, if you're solving for capital leverage or using capital leverage. If you're using any mix of the two, and you can attain radio on internet status, even attain the ROI on any of the two, you're a market leader automatically. Radio on the internet status with return on investment, capital, you've monetized. That's what it means. The money you're putting in, you're seeing it back. And then that's what it takes to sustain business. Have a home. Think about marketing. Your marketing is your magnet system, so that you can preach, so you have presence, and so you have community. Then think of your sales. Your sales now is from your marketing effort, the data that you're collecting. You're now turning that into sales efforts, informed sales. That's that outreach. You're reaching out to people that already want you. So that's about it. And for sustenance, you actually have to operationalize. You have to deliver. Whatever the value is, you have to deliver. So that's why I put this here as sustenance. And then for everything to flow seamlessly, you need flow. And that's that automation. If it's AI that you want to leverage, you leverage. If it's teams you want to leverage, you leverage. If it's tools you want to leverage, agents and what have you, you can mix the three of them. That's good still. That's proper. So, another thing that you cannot codify really is your mental health. Because whilst we all can all of us can deploy this. We get our enterprise architecture. We know what our magnet system is for marketing. We know what our sales are going to be because we're informed. We know how to sustain because we have the right teams, tool, AI, whatever. Then we've accomplished flow because now we've automated certain things. All of us can do all of that. We know what our leverage is, capital, code, media. We know where it is. So all of us can do all of that. But it seems to me that many people can't do the one thing I think is foundational to all of this, which is be optimistic. Give yourself a chance. Don't write yourself off even before you attempt. Allow yourself become yourself, I would say. You know, just trust, believe, remove limiting thoughts. I have faith in. I enjoy working with Kick and Co. And I have faith in what we're doing, this business, this brand, myself, the impact that we can have if we actually start building legacy businesses that will touch lives, provide value. Because I believe more people starting businesses would be a very good thing. Lead to more enlightened populations that are more productive. When people earn their money, when everything that they earn is not just giveaway, I believe that people have more self-respect because they'll have more responsibility too. They'll be less reckless. They'll be more hopeful. do this. Addressing another community question. Gotten this a lot. People have asked. So, that's what I have as regards this. Sustaining business in Nigeria, and I believe in any other places. Thinking, first of all, that you can do it, acknowledging that it's possible for it to get it done. And just investigating to find out what it is that you love. Attempting to build value out of that and offer to people. Allow time. I'm also learning in real time that time part, allow time part is it's a very difficult part. It's a very difficult part. Allowing time play out as you deploy effort. Because most people that are doing businesses, they're starting maybe in their they're in their 40s and what, they have like experience to rely on, right? They have history to rely on. We that are starting businesses as we're young, 23, 24, 21, 26. You don't have any history yet. You need one kind of delusional self-belief, basically borrowing experience from your future. Borrowing experience from your future and just delusionally believing that that thing is real, that journey was real, and as though it already happened. The people that have history to draw confidence from, thank God for them. But we don't have that much history to draw confidence from, to draw proof of concept from. We need to go to our future and draw it from there and be confident today about deploying consistent efforts. And many people like to hear that, oh, it's very difficult, it's very that, and stay on that. It is, it's supposed to be difficult. That's how I talk to myself. It's supposed to be difficult. Not difficult in the sense of not accomplishable, but like difficult in the sense of you can never really predict when efforts pay, how they'll pay. You just need to sustain faith and yeah, keep applying effort nonetheless. So I hope this helps, and I hope to get more questions from people. As best I can, I'll come back to answer them. And from this as well, if there's any other questions, I'll welcome them as well. I'm not feeling the best this morning. So, but I wanted to keep the 8 a.m. live as I had scheduled. So, I'll not be able to go for the 1 hour today. I don't want to go for the 2 hours today. Perhaps I'll be able. I'm just feeling I need to sleep. I hope you guys got value from that. 5 things you have to think about and then what the three leverage points are. I appreciate you guys. So I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Should I?